Fourth edition of this fast-developing stage race in Azerbaijan makes its way in deep into the heartland and then works its way back towards the coast for the conclusion on Sunday afternoon. This is the first of three stages we're bringing to you live on Eurosport this weekend. 187 kilometres for the riders this afternoon. Kabala to Shaky and then back to Kabala. It's a relatively simple route for the riders, out and back. Just one classified climb across today's stage as we get an indication of the different stages on offer for the riders this weekend. This was the first stage 2 days ago, taken in emphatic style by Marco Kump, the Slovenian rider, with Adria Mobil, late of Tinkoff Saxo, and showing the World Tour class as he edged clear of Francesco Chicchi of Androni Giocattoli. Maxime Avarin is airy with the local Synergy Baku Cycling Project squad, taking third across the line at the conclusion of stage one. Stage two yesterday, well, what a bun fight that was. Absolute carnage and devastation wrought throughout the peloton. Baku to Ismaili, 187 kilometres in total. 3 classified climbs along the way, 2 Category 2 assaults, and the final Cat 1 ascent reached just 33 kilometres from the finish line, by which time, well, there were bodies all over the road. 18 riders were forced to abandon yesterday, but not among them, after an absolutely superb performance, was the winner of the stage, Primož Roglic of Adria Mobil, making it 2 stage wins in succession for the Slovenian squad. It was a 1-2 for Slovenia on the day as well, because second across the line was his erstwhile teammate, now with the Synergy Baku, Maciej Mugerli. And that's the overall standings heading into today's third stage. Jasper Ukkelen of the Netherlands sitting second overall, 34 seconds in arrears. 3 riders just over half a minute behind Roglic. And there's only about 4 or 5 riders left in it with a realistic ambition of overall honours. Absolutely stunning performance by Roglic yesterday on the climbs to Ismaili. To this afternoon's fair, well, as I said, Kabala to Shaky, back to Kabala, 180 kilometres in total. Out and back, sprint point is at the same point on the road. 2 sprints in total, one after 47 kilometres, another one after 127.8 kilometres, and just 1 classified climb along the way, but there are plenty of other lumps and bumps, so this is by no means a straightforward sprinter's stage, and there's quite a decent ramp back up to the finish. And look at that, there's the concluding 3 kilometres with over 160 metres gained in that final 3 kilometres, so it's not going to be a handy one for the sprinters. Once more, similar weather conditions to that which have prevailed for the previous couple of days. 15 degrees centigrade, positively balmy, a little bit chillier up in the hills, so we're going to see plenty of arm warmers and leg warmers in evidence for these super thin bike riders as we survey the scene over the Gabeland amusement park. Infrastructure being developed at a real rate of knots in Azerbaijan these days, as overall race leader flanked by his teammates. Primož Roglic looking very relaxed ahead of today's assault on stage 3 of the Tour of Azerbaijan. And who's going to be able to put it up to him? Will it be that man, Chris Horner? One of 3 riders just over 30 seconds behind. 34 seconds in arrears for the winner of the Tour of Spain in 2013. Riders making their way out of Kabala this morning. Flag comes in and Adria Mobil on the front, displaying their attentions. No surprise that hostilities very quickly resumed. Roglic it is who has the GC lead. Maxime Avarin leading the points competition and wearing the green jersey. The mountains competition Well, that's also being led by Roglic by scant single-point advantage. Surutkovic, though, 1 point behind, and he'll be wearing that jersey today. Some of the sights and scenes of this beautiful nation being presented to us. The Beauty's waterfall hidden in the dense and abundant forest surrounding Gabala. One of nature's great highlights in this region. And there's the ruins of the ancient city of Gabala. Beautiful medieval city. Famous for the quality of its silks and sweets once upon a time. So the first intermediate sprint of the day taken by Daniel Turek of the Czech Republic. He's one of 6 riders that is in a breakaway group that have extricated themselves from the main peloton. Riders making their way through Shaky. And the helicopter shot illustrating that we're just skirting the mountains here, not quite delving into them. But still, this is a lumpy and bumpy stage. As we pick up the live pictures, 6 riders clear of the peloton. They've been that way for quite a while now. Maximum advantage of not much more than 4 minutes. And the aforementioned Alexander Surutkovic sitting on the front of the group. He's wearing the Red Mountains jersey. Clearly felt that it was important to get into the breakaway today with just 1 classified climb. Great opportunity for him to retrieve that jersey. 2 minutes and 40 seconds now to the main group. And the main group's slogging away behind, just inching their way back towards the 6 riders up front. I'll run the rule over them very shortly, give you the name check. The man on the front there is Daniel Turek, who took that first intermediate sprint. Surutkovic sprinting clear. So important for him to take as many points as he possibly can to put a bit of a distance between himself and Roglic. He's wearing the Red Mountains jersey, currently sitting 1 point behind Roglic in that Mountains competition, and now looking likely to take that Mountains jersey by rights. Klimianako of Belarus taking 2nd across the single classified climb of the day. But he's not a factor in the Mountains competition. Öcalan, Mugerli, Chris Horner and Azadov, riders who were in to the fore in yesterday's stage. More sights and sounds. The Caravanserai, one of 3 of them, showing the importance of Shaky as a trade center between Dagestan in the south and the Soviet era. Shaky had the largest silk production factory of the USSR. And this the palace of Shaky Khan. Most famous attraction of Shaky, built at the end of the 18th century in the Osmanic style. Legend has it, it was built without using a single nail. So that's the situation as it prevails. We're going to get a quick commercial break out to you. It's day 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan. The riders making their way from Kabala to Shaky and then back to Kabala. It's out and back. Palace of the Shaky Khan. Built without using a single nail. Very impressive stuff. Very colourful and very much one of the top tourist features in this region. Built at the end of the 18th century in the Osmanic style. Now, somewhere out there are some bike racers who are laying down the watts in a big way. 6 riders up front, as they have been since very early on in the stage. Alexander Surutkovic has managed to infiltrate the breakaway. The important work is done for him. He's taken the points. And this is a chaser. Very impressive performance has just been presented to us by Luis Lemus of Mexico. And more significantly, the Airgas Safeway cycling team, just 23 years of age. As he manages to attach himself onto the breakaway group. He's been chasing for quite a while. That's the first sight we've actually got of him, but we did hear that he had left the main group. Second intermediate sprint of the afternoon. First of those was taken by Daniel Turek. And the man in red, Surutkovic, wearing the Mountains jersey, now wearing it pretty much by right. Perhaps recognising the danger of a couple of riders clipping clear and doesn't want to see them get too far up the road, or maybe he fancies just adding a few points to the intermediate sprint classification total he's managed at this point. 7 riders now up front. Surutkovic, Kasper Asgreen and Daniel Turek from the Czech Republic that we've mentioned. Turek taking the points once more. Konstantin Kliminaku, Justin Vaidem is there, and Mikhail Kortsidakis, Estonia and Greece respectively, and Luis Lemes, as we've mentioned, from Mexico, has managed to make it into that group. So now we have live pictures. That's the main peloton chasing the 7 riders up front, and what will they be able to do about chasing back to those riders? It's a tough finish for them. Severe ramp up to the finish, but 45 kilometers remaining. They have the breakaway riders within touching distance. Magnus Backstedt is alongside. If you want to get in touch, it's hashtag home of cycling at DQ Sport for myself, at Maggie_PR for the man alongside, running the rule over the teams this afternoon. And Magnus, very interesting that the Airgas Safeway cycling team have put a rider across that group. Impressive performance by Lemus to actually make the junction. Yeah, definitely a big gap that he jumped across, and it clearly felt that it was important to have someone up there, because you know, for the individual stage itself, it's always going to come down to whether the guys from Adria Mobil feel like they want to bring these back and you know, set it up for a stage win for one of their riders, or whether they are actually happy to leave them out, leave these riders out there. You know, there's no real threat really on the general classification. Luis Lemus, who came up here from Airgas Safety Cycling Team, is actually the best ranked rider on the general classification of 4 minutes and 4 seconds. So you know, Adria Mobil can afford to let this group go home with a minute or so. Is there anything that perhaps he can do for Chris Horner in a situation where a bit later on things started cut up in the last few kilometers? Well, we do have a climb up to the finish, and I think it all comes down to how difficult that climb is going to be for them. You know, if Chris Horner can jump across, then yes, definitely will be very important to have a man of Lemmy's stature in that group to help him out. Whether that's going to be any sort of a help remains to be seen. Adria Mobil, no surprise there, taking up the position on the front of the peloton. Overall race leader Primož Roglič in the blue jersey, safely nestled behind the massed ranks of the Adria Mobil Slovenian squad, almost a national squad. 2:35 now the advantage, over 4 minutes as I say, but now that's been pared back to 2.5 minutes with 44 kilometers left. You'd say that's well within touching distance, especially with that relatively difficult ramp up to the finish. Marco Kump, winner of stage 1, sitting safely in 3rd position. Well, it's a blue jersey for the GC leader. If you're trying to pick him out in the peloton, quite a baggy jersey actually. It's would have been a little bit well, it's always a thrill I think to wear a leader's jersey. You'd know a lot more about that than I ever would, Magnus, but you know, if they hand you a slightly baggy one and you're thinking about all the watts you might be losing, it's a bittersweet pill. Well, it can be, but you know, you just go back to the race organisers and ask for a smaller jersey, really. But yeah, it's always nice when you get to wear the leader's jersey. You know, it's worth about 10 watts on its own, isn't it? Well, it certainly can be. It certainly can be, and it all depends on how many leaders' jerseys you've had kicking around in your career as well, and how many days you've spent in it. Whether it's that excitement of wearing it, or whether it's a burden, and it obviously depends on how well you're going as well. And I think Roglič is definitely going well at this point. Roglic certainly is going well as Adria Mobile sit on the front. The squad of the overall race leader, Adria Mobile, doing what race leading teams do best, as they slowly but surely work to close that one down. Team Tavira from Portugal also putting a rider into the group of chasers. Clearly they feel they need to make some sort of a contribution, and great to see such large and appreciative crowds out, because this race is really starting to capture the imagination. Fourth edition in its current incarnation. There have been international stage races in Azerbaijan in the past, but a real impetus and a real push behind their cycling activity in the last few years, not least with the creation of the Synergy Baku cycling project squad, headed by David McQuaid, and the DS is former Sky pro cycling rider Jeremy Hunt, who's really whipped the team into decent position, and Surutkovic up front doing a great job for them, 31 years of age, a Ukrainian rider, third year on the team, well, by some considerable margin the oldest man in the breakaway group. It's made up of riders 20, 22, 25, 20, 20 and 23, so pretty young guys and showing plenty of ambition out front. No sense of panic in the peloton behind yet, though. And perhaps indicating a certain level of ambition for later on. Dukla Prague have put a couple of riders into the chase as well. Czech squad aiding the Slovenian team of Adria Mobile, supporting that man there, just riding through in that plain blue jersey. Primož Roglic, the overall race leader, sitting pretty at the moment. 34-second advantage, as I said, over three riders, Öcalan, Mughali and Chris Horner, and then the next best after that is Averin from the local Synergy Baku squad, 3 minutes and 50 seconds in arrears. Regina also 3 minutes and 50, and well, it's quite a decent sized group at just under 4 minutes. The question is, we've got another hilly stage tomorrow, whether they're going to be able to pare back that advantage. At the moment it looks as if we've really only got 4 riders in contention for overall. It does look like that, but you know, this is bike racing and anything can happen, and I think certainly with there not being as many big teams in this race to control it, we only got six man teams as well. It means that it's more difficult to control the race, and with that, you know, I've seen a lot stranger things happen. Yes, given that it wasn't so easy to control it yesterday, you never know what is likely to eventuate tomorrow. As I said, we'd be live here on Eurosport once more, and several classified climbs, lots and lots of difficulties for the riders still to face, as the breakaway group are really getting their skates on now. We're well into the final of this third stage of Tour of Azerbaijan, and plenty of encouragement in the break. Quick commercial break, back after these. The peloton in one long snaking line as they really have their skates on now. We're heading towards Kabala, and at the conclusion of 180 kilometers, stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan will be complete, and the peloton are really hammering it now to try and chase down the advantage of around about 2.5 minutes held by the group of 7 riders up front now. Loguc, which has played host to the intermediate sprints along the way, showing off its Alban temple. And this is given for the name of an old people of Caucasian origin, the early Christians. And these buildings dating back to the 12th or 13th century. Peloton in one long line. And this is the site of the main lead group up front. That's Kasper Asgreen from Denmark, just 20 years of age. It's his first year at this level. sitting 80th overall at 21 minutes and 3 seconds, and he just hands over to the next rider coming through. Sarutkovic, Askren, Turek, Klimyanakov, Vaidam, Kortsidakis and Luis Lemus, who managed to make the junction. Rider on the front at the moment in the red jersey, pretty baggy looking jersey that is too, is the leader of the mountains competition, Alexander Sarutkovic, Kazakh national rider, riding through as well. That is Kulimbatov, Nurbalat Kulimbatov, sitting 61st overall, 18 minutes and 59 seconds. Absolute carnage yesterday. So many riders are 10, 20, 30. I think the last rider inside the time limit, 38 minutes down. It's extraordinary, the sort of carnage that was wrought on the peloton yesterday. Is that a factor of the mountains that were presented to the riders, or is it the standard of the riders, or what exactly, you know, how did that happen?
Well, I think it's coming down to the difficulty of the stage, but also the fact that it was raced very hard from an early point, where, you know, we had 16 riders going up the road, and they were pretty much the best climbers in the race as well. So that clearly made it very difficult for everyone else to try and follow and keep up with that, and hence why we had so many guys both outside time limits packing in, and also a couple of guys being sent home. You know, it was a very difficult stage, raced hard, and yeah, there is definitely a difference in you know, from the very, very top guys at this level to the guys that are sort of halfway down the result sheet.
Bit of a variation in standard. No variation in standard at the front, though. Plenty of riders from Adria Mobil. 2 riders from Dukla Prague. Clearly feel that they've got ambitions this afternoon. And fascinating to see that there is a team from Dukla Prague, famous in the world of soccer, of course. So famous European sides from the 50s and 60s. They're still making it into European Cup semi-finals into the mid-80s. Now have representation in the world of cycling. Continental level team, pretty much, well, most of the teams are at continental level, which would be sort of Division 3 in the way that world cycling is structured. But a couple of squads at pro-continental 2nd division level. Androni Giocattoli,
Rasvelo, Drapak and Team Novo Nordisk. Those are the 4 pro-conti teams.
.55 on screen there, the small compact figure of the twice Mexican national road race champion, Luis Lemus, best placed rider in this group, just 4 minutes and 4 seconds down. So there'll be a few riders perhaps getting a little bit anxious, but I think they're well in control of closing down this group. 2 minutes and 2 seconds. It's all about what sort of a lead they have when they get to that final finishing ramp. As I say, 160 meters gained in that last 3 kilometers, and there's a little bit of climbing before they even get to that last 3K point. The entire Dukla Prague team is on the front. They've got big ambitions today. They've got the leading youth rider, of course, František Ciser.
Yeah, it's obviously a very important jersey for them, but also, you know, they're playing straight into the hands of the Adria Mobil team as well. They don't have to ride anymore. They you know, they're sitting at 2 minutes. They can probably put Roglic on the front up this climb, and he will bring back at least a minute or so on his own, which means that, you know, that they're sitting in a very safe, very comfortable position right now, not having to stress about anything.
So now just over 33 kilometers remaining on stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan. The riders making their way back to the start town of Kabala. Just under 150 kilometers already in their legs. on day 3. These riders starting to feel the pinch a little bit. Elbows are starting to flick a little bit early, and the grimace is starting to appear on the face. Rider from the Minsk Cycling Club making his way through. Great to see cycling clubs, isn't it? They're not just teams, they're clubs at this level. Konstantin Klimianaku, 25-year-old from Belarus, third on the stage of Circuit Ardennes in 2012, third in the Piccolo Giro de Lombardia in 2011, second in the mountains classification GP of Sochi. So a sprinkling of decent results at this level, and of course so many of the riders in here really trying to put themselves in the shop window, looking to make the step up to Pro Conti or perhaps even World Tour level. And some riders looking to make the step back up. Marco Kump being an obvious example there. You might believe that he's still got fish to fry at that level. Interesting that one of the riders to abandon yesterday was Francesco Chicchi.
Yeah, it's a shame that you know, Chicchi ended up going home yesterday. He's certainly one of the most interesting sprinters to watch when he's really going well. Clearly yesterday's stage wasn't suited to him in any way, shape or form. So I mean, I can see why he struggled and potentially why he's gone home, but at the same time these are the races where he really needs to just at least get through and pick up stage wins in any little you know, any opportunity that he gets. So yeah, clearly not very good for Chicchi there.
And the peloton really pushing on now. It's going to be tough for riders going back to get bottles, or any rider that might be chasing back on after any difficulty encountered.
Yeah, I think with this pace in the peloton, is definitely not going to be very easy to get back on. I think going back getting bottles and things is a different scenario. That tends to be relatively easy to be done, and you only got 11 Ks left of the bar being open. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be hard for anyone else to find their way back on, as should they have been dropped earlier. That helicopter giving them a bit of a helping hand, I think, with the wind.
I know, yeah. You get too close, you can drive a rider on. If you get, well, you can also slow them up. Well, Laurent Fignon went to his grave believing that Francesco Moser had been blown along by the helicopter at the Giro d'Italia in, gosh, was it 84? Someone tell me exactly what year that was. And of course,
wasn't it a similar sort of thing at the Tour de France when Greg won?
Yeah, oh really? Well,
I think there was at least a similar kind of
belief that there might have been a little bit of extra assistance.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that can get into the mind of a rider. Yeah, Laurent Fignon, he believed that the helicopter was slowing him up because it just got so close. It was really a choppy wake from the rotors up above, and that similarly the helicopter was behind Moser and pushing him along. Francesco Moser, great all-rounder, and managed to win the Giro d'Italia, which many might have thought was beyond his capability, but one of the legends of cycling, as indeed was the late great Laurent Fignon. Plenty of national teams in here this week as well. Hungarian national squad, the Greek national squad, absolutely decimated in the climbing yesterday. They've only got 2 riders left. And school kids coming out, a little bit of a break from their lessons as they see the colourful side of UCI international bike racing at its very best. The gap now 1 minute and 40 seconds to these 7 riders up front, still working smoothly, working in unison. Nobody shirking, everybody still able to make a decent contribution. But the peloton behind, we get confirmation. 1 minute and 40 seconds now. And surely their days are numbered. And the question is, who's got any sort of strength for that finishing ramp? Is there anyone in this breakaway group that will retain the strength to actually get involved? Clearly, Dukla Prague believe that they can put a rider into the mix. František Císař, he's leading the youth riders competition, wearing the purple jersey. He's got a 1 minute and 42 seconds advantage over Daniel Turek. Turek is in the break, so that perhaps being part of their motivation for chasing things down. It might not just be about closing it down to present themselves for the stage finish, but as much to make sure that Turek is called to account. Caesar sitting 7th overall. And Turek 25th at 5 minutes and 32 seconds. And is it by magic? There is Daniel Turek, Czech rider, riding with the Cycling Academy team. Israeli squad. 22 years of age. 8th on GC in the Carpathian Couriers under-23 race last year. Kazakh national squad at the back, wearing those oh-so-familiar colours that we know from World Tour racing with the Astana team. It's Nurbalat Kulimbetov, who will believe perhaps that he has a future with Astana. He's sitting 61st overall, just under 19 minutes behind. Dukla Prague still driving it along at the front, much to the absolute delight of Adria Mobil. They've done so much of the work in protecting the jersey of overall race leader Primus Roglic of, as I say, the Adria Mobil squad, and now Dukla Prague, the Czech squad, heading into the outskirts of the finishing city of Kavala. Up front, the advantage now pared down to, what, just under 1 minute and 40 seconds. 7 riders still riding through, not so they're getting too much of a contribution from Kulimbetov. He may well just be a little bit goosed at this point. No lack of impetus from Kasper Asgreen. Just 20 years of age, the Danish rider, riding with the German MLP team Bergstrasse. Airgas Safeway cycling team rider Luis Lemus hands over to the Mountains jersey classification leader Surutkovits. And the Tavira squad, Team Tavira from Portugal, they also have ambitions. So just over 20 kilometers remaining on stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan. The riders making their way to Kavala. We'll get another break out of the way back after these. A minute and a half advantage for the riders up front. 7 riders still managing to hold off a fast chasing peloton behind. There is the roll call: Surutkovic, Asgreen, Klimianaku, Luis Lemus, who chased across Turek and Vadim. And collecting tickets at the back, Kulimbetov of the Kazakhstan national squad, as the team managers and indeed the commissars come up to give final instructions to the riders. I think the cars are going to be coming out relatively soon. No more feeding, I suspect, is the instruction from the commissar there, that we're coming up to the 20 kilometers to go point.
Well, it could be that, but most of the time it's up to the commissar to give them the time gap as well. If it's difficult for the motorbike with the blackboard to get there and you know, get the timings right, then you just run it with the fact that the commissaire gives them the orders, and also at round about a minute is when the commissaire decides to pull all the team cars out. So he may have just told them, look, anything else you want from your team car, because they're going out.
They're coming out. 1 minute and 10 seconds. Dukla Prague chasing hard behind, assisted by Team Tavira, sitting just behind the yellow and the blue and white squads. Are the overall race leading team of Adria Mobil, just coming through shot there. And that purple jersey, that's the youth leader, František Caesar of Dukla Prague. His team doing a great job on the front. They've pared back the advantage of that breakaway group up front, which includes Daniel Turek of the Cycling Academy team, who's sitting just 1 minute and 42 seconds behind in the youth classification. So at the moment, Caesar has got back into the jersey on the road, as well as by right. 20 kilometers remaining. It's a very, very different stage for the riders today. Groups all over the road yesterday, scattered to the four winds. And now the gap has been pared down inside 1 minute, so the cars are coming out pretty quickly, pretty soon, I think. And absolutely nothing being held back by the break. If they've saved any matches whatsoever, they're piling it on, and there you have the long, long straight roads make it so difficult for the breakaway. Any question of being out of sight, out of mind, disappearing as the main peloton behind will see the cars up front, and they'll be able now to pick up side of the riders who, from the main breakaway, or from the lead breakaway, out front all day and really starting to feel their legs. Already starting to head into that little false flat section that's going to take us up to that finishing ramp. The riders from Dukla Prague and Team Tavira starting to suffer a little bit. They really are piling it on up front. I'm not sure we're going to get much of a contribution from that rider again. He really was absolutely dying by the time he pulled off.
Yeah, well, if you get told that, you ride as hard as you can, as long as you can, to bring these guys back, because we've got a few attacks happening up in the leader group.
So it's the fight to be last man standing. Surutkovits is perhaps a little less concerned with that. He wanted to get into the break today to make sure that he got the mountains points. Job done for him. He's got back that jersey by right. He's just wearing it for the overall race leader Roglic today, but now he's got the lead, and not so keen to get involved in the finish. Well, there you go. 20 kilometers to go, it says, the side of the road. 18 kilometers to go, according to the caption on screen, which immediately disappears. So there's got to be a little bit of a conversation to see whether we are within 20 kilometers of the finish, or maybe a little bit further up the road. Four riders up front. Five riders from the breakaway group, and Kolumbatov sitting at the back and hanging on grimly for as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, we're not too far out from where it starts climbing, and already now it's although it looks flat, it's still slightly uphill all the way up towards the finish line. So I think it's going to be quite a difficult final, certainly if you're traveling at the speed that you are here into a sort of one maybe 2% incline, then it tends to wear you down quite quickly.
Daniel Turek's not too keen to go to the front, but by some considerable margin, the most aggressive rider in here is the rider who joined the breakaway last, Luis Lemus of Mexico. Probably the most talented. Turek sees that this gap is just not going to be closed by his breakaway companion Justin Vadim, who's all gesticulations, but now he has to close a gap himself. So rider's suffering a little bit, and not perhaps the decision making a little bit affected by the fact that they've been out there for a long time. Klimianakov sits on Justin Vadim's wheel as Vadim grinds his way across the gap, and Kolumbatov, who's been sitting on for a while, doesn't seem to have any difficulty making the well, he knows he needs to stay in the wheels and immediately close the gap and not let these little gaps go, because he might suffer to get across them. But the man really showing the big impetus at the moment. He arrived at the break late, and he wants to make it last all the way to the line, if at all possible. Luis Lemus of Mexico, smallest rider in the group, just 23 years of age, but he's got a very impressive palmares already. Twice National Road Race champion of Mexico, fourth in the National Road Race Championships in 2014. Stage and fifth on GC and Tour of Hokkaido last year as well. So a rider with a developing reputation. And these two riders jettisoned from the breakaway group. In red, Surutkovits, second rider here, happy and content to see the main bunch come up behind. It's job done for him. The man from the Ukraine and the local Synergy Baku cycling project squad. Objective achieved, and they've certainly been involved in all the action so far this week. Nary a glance from any of the riders of Dukla Prague or Team Tavira.
Yeah, Dukla Prague really keen on bringing this back, and
a lot of aggression from Lemus there. He wants to see some sort of a contribution from Kolumbatov. Kolumbatov, we haven't seen him at the front in the last little while, and Lemus has suddenly realised.
Well, if you've got one rider sitting on like that, it disturbs the whole makeup of the group, and you know, the rider's starting to sort of slow down in not taking their turns 100% and so on. But you know, just goes to show that you can boss just about anyone around if you really want to.
Well, constant conversation from Lemous. You can do it, he says.
No, you hold that wheel.
Yeah.
You follow through, and just the way you should do.
No doubt about the man that's bossing this one, but
interesting.
To what end?
Interesting is what's going to happen now, whether he goes all the way back again and tries to sit on, or whether he actually goes through and takes his turn for the next time.
Yeah, interesting too to see whether Lemous will be encouraged to attack himself and go solo.
Maybe at the point when the road starts going up a bit more than he might do, but before that I think he will just try and, you know, take help and use these guys as much as possible.
Yeah, he wants to get as much out of them. If he could just get to that finishing ramp, last 4 or 5k, it really starts to step up. Are already on the drag up towards that finishing climb. So the road is going more up than down at the moment, and it's really going to be difficult for the riders who've been in the breakaway all day. Many of whom are not, well, they're still very much at the outset of their career, so developing the strength to go long. Justin Vadim from Estonia rolling through, number 226, the Estonian national team rider. He's just 20 years of age. And representing Minsk Cycling Club, Konstantin Klimianakov, 25, and they're getting that contribution from Kulimbatov of the Kazakh national squad riding through on his wheel. It's Lemous, wants to get the maximum contribution for him before he comes off the wheel. That's a pretty impressive effort from Lemous to ride across. Well, it was about 3.5 minutes when he made it, when he made the junction, and still has plenty of energy. So he's obviously a talented rider.
Clearly, and I mean that's not an easy thing to do, to go across on a big enough group like that. There's you know, out there riding, settled into a tempo. It takes a lot. Looks like a puncture here,
and it is Daniel Turek, the Czech rider, riding with the Israeli Cycling Academy team. Rear wheel puncture. And I do believe that is neutral service. Most of the team cars in this event, of course, are supplied by the organisers. It's a long travel.
It's definitely a neutral car, because the quick releases aren't made up to what they where they should be.
So difficult situation. He's not getting an identical wheel, getting one from neutral, and as Magnus said, he's just got to wind up that quick release. So a little bit of frustration. It's going to be difficult for Turek to make it back. In fact, it's probably just in the nick of that he'll be able to be picked up by the bunch now.
Well, the mechanics in the team car, when is your team car, they actually got the dropouts for your bikes. So whether you got 1 or 2 different models and the dropouts may be different, they got a couple of the, you know, all the different dropouts for the team bikes. And when they pick a wheel down from the roof of the car and bring that into the team car, straight away they put those dropouts in, make the quick release hit just perfect, maybe a half a turn too loose, so it's easy enough to get the wheel into the frame, do that half a turn up, and then off they go, and that makes it go very quickly for the wheel changes.
On the front, grinding away in a very big gear indeed, is Konstantin Klimianakov of Belarus. 21st overall at 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Still sitting well on his bike, but starting to hang out of a big gear. It's often a sign that a rider is starting to tire when they'll go for a bigger gear on their bike.
Well, it depends on which bike rider it is, to be honest with you. You know, one of the sport directors in this for Rus Velo, Sergei Goncha, I never saw him outside of the, well, I think the easiest he went ever was 53.11.
3-speed block, yeah.
Well, I think he only had one block on one on the back and 2 on the front, really. Uphill it was a 39.11, and downhill is a 53.11. No, joking aside, it is very much you know, each individual rider, what they prefer to do, how they perform the best, and you know, some riders can sit and hold a much higher cadence than than others can, and a lot of the time it's the makeup of your muscle groups and how you transport oxygen to the group and to the muscles. That's why we see some riders very capable of spinning up a climb, others not so much, and that's just a difference in from person to person.
One man that's suffering at the moment, Justin Vadim, really struggled to get back onto the wheel of Luis Lemus of Mexico as he rolled through after doing his turn. Plenty of contribution now from Kulimbatov. He realized that he wasn't going to be able to get away with that for too long. So 4 riders up front. We've lost Turek to a puncture. We've lost the 2 others from the breakaway group. When this little bit flurry of attacking happened about 10 kilometers ago, they were jettisoned and are back in the main peloton.
Well, Kulimbatov clearly has got some good legs on him. He's taking some very hard turns and making actually a couple of the riders suffer in the in this group here. So I think what Lemus did and really put him back into his place and then told him what to do is probably a good thing. And I think most of the riders in this group are quite happy that they bossed Kulimbatov around to make him work.
Yeah, definitely getting something out of him. 22 years of age now, Kazakhstan rider. Second in the Asian Cycling Road Race Championships in 2013. And third in the Under-23 Kazakhstan Road Race Championships last year. That would be no mean feat to get a medal in that race, I can tell you. Real strength and depth in the Kazakhstan nation in cycling at the moment. Klimyanakov at the front for Belarus and the Minsk Cycling Club as the group behind. We're waiting for a time gap. We're inside 12 kilometers remaining on this stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan. Dukla Prague continuing to line it out on the front of the main bunch with assistance from Team Tavira of Portugal. And then in line astern behind them is the overall race leading squad of Adria Mobil, leading the team's classification ahead of Park Hotel Valkenburg. And of course leading it overall, the blue jersey of Primož Roglic. Well in evidence towards the fore at the moment, but it's the squads of Dukla Prague and Team Tavira that are doing the work to chase down this group. 45 seconds, and they're holding it relatively steady at the moment. 4 riders working on the front. There's not much more than 4 riders on the front of the main peloton, and they've been there for a while now. Maybe there's, well, 5 or 6, so there's a little bit of extra leg work there going on the front, but now it's stabilized a little bit, and there's every chance that these 4 riders are at least going to get to that finishing ramp and have some chance.
Yeah, they may still have a chance, but it could also be that the peloton has decided that let's not put too much effort into this. There is still a ramp up to deal with, and you know, we can just wait and really drive it hard in the opening part of that climb.
The leading Team Tavira riders, Daniel Mestre, 27th overall, 5 minutes and 32 seconds in arrears. So obviously going well, because any riders that were within, well, 5-6 minutes of Roglic at the conclusion of yesterday's stage actually had a reasonably good day out. Several riders from the early break surviving to contest yesterday's stage. 3 riders chasing home the lone winner, Roglic, at a distance of 34 seconds, and then after that was, what, I think about 350 back to the next group. So 5:32, first 27 riders covered by 5 minutes and 32 seconds. That's a bigger spread than we're used to seeing on relatively short stage races, indicating just how testing the terrain is in Azerbaijan this week. 4 riders working in unison at the front and hanging on grimly to this 47, just as I say it, 35 seconds, so must be about 5 seconds a kilometre at the moment.
Yeah, something like that. Still working well in the front though, still taking their turns, and I just wonder if any of them have got anything left for this final climb, and can they respond? I mean, it's now or never really. If you're going to go on your own, if you've got anything left, and you need to put the pressure on it now.
Well, by far the biggest gear being churned by Klimyanakov. And in contrast, the man at the back of the group here, Luis Lemus of Mexico, very much a peddler. 10 kilometers remaining now. 9 kilometers indicated on screen. It's going to be somewhere around that, between 9 and 10 kilometers. They'll know when they see the kite they've got 1,000 meters to do. Oh, and it's a really big effort for Justin Weidem every time as he comes back on at the back of the group. You can tell, I think he's probably suffering the most at the moment. And Kulimbitov, who looked like he was absolute dead weight and really struggling a while ago, well, he's making big contributions now, isn't he? So Dukla Prague go missing, and Team Tavira take it up on the front. They've got a rider from the Minsk Cycling Club sitting in there, but they've got a rider up front as well. Inside the final 10 kilometers of stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan, and we've got the teams crowding at the front now. They sniff the finish line and want to get involved in the end game here as Team Tavira continue to put riders on the front. So they've just got, what, 3 riders there chasing 4 riders up front. Half a minute advantage for the remains of the breakaway. 4 riders still there from the original 7 riders that had a maximum advantage of not much north of 4 and a bit minutes. And that is coming down terminally, you think. The road steadily rising towards the finish. And here comes the attack. We were expecting it. It's arrived. Who has it come from? The man with the most energy, Luis Lemus. And there's nothing that the rest of those 3 riders can do about Lemus. Realizes that he wasn't getting the assistance he needed from anyone else. Interesting that Vadim, who looked like he was really struggling, is the one with the most energy to try and pursue, but a little look over his shoulder.
I don't actually think there's any energy left in there. It's just a question of, I want to give this a go to see if I can actually bring him back, and if anything, stay away from the peloton for another kilometer or so. Impressive ambition nonetheless. Yeah, definitely, but you know, from a 20-year-old, I'd expect nothing less. You know, you don't actually back off until you're completely done. No brains, just maximum commitment at the age of 20. All the time. Well, here ride first and think after is what I used to go by. Yeah. Oh my God, I wish I hadn't done that. It's usually the Luis Lemus now absolutely flying and riding solo to try and hold off the baying pack led by the Team Tavira squad. And that's it. They're mopping up 3 riders from the break, so it's not going to be long before they pick up Lemus as well. So unfortunate for him. The Mexican rider surely not going to be able to hold off these riders behind. As Kulimbitov of Team Kazakhstan is the first to be gathered back into the fold. Klimyanakov next up, so I think we're going to see the Minsk Cycling Club changing tactic. They're not in defensive mode, and they'll be able to go to the front and see can they wind things up. Luis Lemus still has a couple of team cars and motorbikes behind him, so retaining enough of an advantage, and he looks good on a bike, doesn't he? He does pedal very nicely indeed, and I quite like the fact that he's committed to this and really still trying out there. He's still got Weidem chasing him, but I don't think there's any real chance for any of these 2 guys to stay out there now, not when you're looking at what's coming behind them. And obviously Adria Mobile are going to start getting ready, as well as the air gas riders for Chris Horner, and not to mention the Synergy Baku cycling project riders, everyone getting teed up there for to help Mate Mugli do a ride here on this finishing hill. Yeah, the Leopard development squad as well, also lining up behind Team Tavira. Team Tavira, the entire team on the front. Crowds gathering at the side of the road as Luis Lemus, at that busy compact style, hunched over the bars, gets low, doesn't he? And it's a busy pedaling style, very effective at the moment because he's holding off these riders. And Leopard, the development squad from Luxembourg, next up behind this Portuguese team. Not much longer for Lemus. It's been a brave effort. Missed the initial breakaway, rode across to them,
solo, and then was the extra legs for them. Realises the game is up, takes a drink and will resume in the group. He'll hand it over to his team leader, Chris Horner, to see what he can do about defending his fourth position overall, 34 seconds in arrears, and perhaps maybe closing it a little bit on this finishing climb to the finish. Ruglitz hanging on to that advantage. Still 20 seconds for Lemous, so I thought, got the impression that that little drink and spraying his legs was a sign that he'd thrown in the towel, but far from it. He's still pushing on. And now the Leopard development squad take it up on the front. Team Tavira have done their duty to this point. 6 kilometers remaining. Lemous hanging on. For how much longer can he manage? He's done a nice job on his numbers, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's
rounding the edges.
Well, it's all about the little details, isn't it?
Well, one little detail is that things are pretty savage in the bunch at the moment. They're all lined out. It's tough to move up. And the stubborn persistence of Lemous has to be appreciated, because look at the grimaces from the riders behind, because they're very much now on the finishing ramp. This is around 5% in the final 3 kilometers. And it's a several percent climb at the moment. Lemous gathering his arms over the bars, hunching into that position, and now it's getting to the stage where it's individual athletic ability, not quite at the level where they're not getting some sort of aerodynamic assistance from the riders in front of them. Into Gabala, and the bunch just gathering around, just stalking their prey. Leopard development squad. Well, they're down to 4 riders, and best placed is just under 19 minutes behind Patrick Olesen. Obviously, they've been given a rocket and told to come up with a result this afternoon.
Yeah, at least give it a go. But I just wonder whether this is the right tactic for them to do something like that. You know, it's there are certainly a number of other riders, I think, or teams, I think they could play off the back of.
On post chain reactions come to the front as well. The tall, rangy figure of Conor Dunn, much in evidence in the last couple of days, and he's a big man, 88 kilograms. But this hill, not beyond his capabilities at the moment, and an attack comes from on post chain reactions. Yeah. Looks like Ryan Mullen, is it, that has stepped out of the peloton?
It certainly does look like him.
Attack. So who's going to be the rider to make the junction to the race leader for so long, Luis Lemous? Hanging on grimly for so long, and well, still hanging on out there. Has a little look behind and realizes that the game is up, and he's really suffering now. Of course, he's been out there for a long time himself. Even if he did join the break late, he had to chase across, and he has been out there quite a while. Energy levels depleted. Riders who've been able to take a little bit of a break in the pack. And Lemous still plenty of fight in him, though. He'll hang on for as long as he possibly can.
I think that might actually be Josh Edmondson.
Yeah, Josh Edmondson, apologies, the rider formerly from Team Sky, the UK rider, sitting 11th overall, just 3 minutes and 50 seconds down. Did good work riding with the Great Britain national squad in the Tour de Yorkshire last week. Josh Edmondson out to make a name for himself and perhaps spring back to World Tour racing next season. Yeah,
I think it's potentially a bit early for a move from Edmondson. Actually, I would have expected him to wait that fraction longer until the ramps really are starting to go up.
So Josh Edmondson from On Post Chain Reactions has the time and the control to take a drink. Clearly this is getting fairly hot out there, but he has a decent advantage. Still, Luis Lemus hangs on. And a post-chain reactions massed towards the front, surveying the scene ahead of them. One of the two remaining Greek national team riders, just sitting in front of Conor Dunn there. Decent advantage for Josh Edmondson, but will it be enough? Because there's lots of aggression going to come from behind. Just 22 years of age, remember.
Well, he's certainly making everyone chase hard in the peloton. Although no real panic, I think, for certainly for the other Mobile riders who. You know, Edmondson is at 3 minutes and 50 seconds, so Roglic has still got some time. Although for the likes of Chris Horner, well, yeah, he's still okay as well. There's certainly a couple of riders up here who want to keep an eye on Edmondson.
Yeah, he's starting to just open up that gap ever more, as the riders behind not willing to pull the trigger too early. It's going to be about leaving this one as late as possible, well inside the final 10 kilometers, remember. I think he's got enough safety pins in there.
Yeah, I was always one of those guys who put in a lot of safety pins in as well, because I hated a number flapping around, and you know, if it flaps, then that means that is also catching air, so just pin it on properly.
Well, there's no doubt about it that it is pinned on properly. Josh Edmondson, well, actually, of course, no difficulty with the physical demands of World Tour racing, but he said himself he probably wasn't as organised, and just really getting the hang of how World Tour racing is structured. That was what he had difficulty with, and was pretty open in admitting it. And well, I think someone who can recognise what's required is someone who will be able to find out what to do to get himself back into that situation. Now Josh Edmondson inside the final 2 kilometers of this stage, but they're the two longest, hardest kilometers of the day. Leopard Development squad still on the front, and the Drapac Professional team from Australia just biding their time on the wheel of the riders from Luxembourg.
We're going to see an attack from any of the riders, though, as like Mugerli or Chris Horner, maybe.
Yeah, is anyone going to challenge Primož Roglic and his overall lead? Maciej Mugerli from the local Synergy Baku cycling project squad, Slovenian rider riding with the Azerbaijan squad. Well, they'd hope that maybe they might be willing to show something, but still Josh Edmondson hanging on to this advantage. When are the attacks going to come?
Are they going to come?
Is it possible? Could he hang on? He's inside the final 2 kilometers, and it's looking good for Josh Edmondson. I'm starting to believe he believes.
Well, we're coming up towards the final kilometer here now.
Well, he's looking forward to the kite, and he's looking forward to the finish line. Out of the saddle now, he's starting to feel the pain, starting to feel the hurt, but those riders behind are starting to get a little bit smaller as we see, well, riders starting to move up on the left-hand side of the bunch. And it ramps up to the finish line, as we say, around about 5% over the final 3 kilometers, and just gets steeper all the way to the line. So it's really going to be a tough one for Josh Edmondson to hang on to this, but it's a brave effort. And who would rule it out at the moment?
That's Andreas Graf that we just spotted.
Under the kite, inside the final kilometre on stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan, Josh Edmondson from Post Chain Reactions is racing towards a famous victory if he can possibly hang on to this. He's out of the saddle, he's giving it absolutely everything that he possibly can, and this would be a remarkable return to form for Josh Edmondson if he can hang on. Did great work in Tour de Yorkshire last week, and I think he's going to do it. I don't think anyone can get across it at this point. Are we speaking too soon, as the bunch behind are starting to get more and more aggressive, and we haven't seen too many attacks? Surely they're coming now. The Israeli squad massing towards the front. Baku Synergy also in evidence. Adria Mobil are there as well. The overall race leader, Primoz Roglic, sitting about 10th man at the moment, and surely he's going to come. We're inside the final 500 metres. Josh Edmondson giving it absolutely everything. Nothing held back now. Here come the attacks, left and right. They're all over the road in their efforts to get across this gap. Have they left it too late? They believed it was foolhardy from Josh Edmondson to go as early as he did, but if he holds off here, it will be a famous addition to his Palmares. Now it's full sprint mode for the riders behind. Edmondson desperately clinging to his lead. Has he got enough? He's inside the final 200 metres. He's inside the final 50 metres. Adria Mobil coming up on the right-hand side of the road. He's dying a million deaths, but he's got to hang on. It's a great win for Josh Edmondson, who only has the energy to lift one arm in victory. A superb win for Josh Edmondson of On Post Chain Reactions as he just about holds off the baying back. A wonderful success. Great to see the ambition of the solo attacker, and who would have thought that he would hang on there. Great appreciation for Josh Edmondson. Marco Kump getting up for second after his stage 1 success, and Josh Edmondson's going to take a while to recover from that one, but well, dinner will be sweet tonight, won't it? What an amazing performance.
Yeah, very classy move, very controlled attack as well, and not going completely crazy right at the start, but actually just working to his own rate, and not until the sort of final kilometre and a half or so really did he have to go full on as deep as he possibly could.
Well, it's 22-year-old Josh Edmondson that hangs on for what is a famous victory. Just the energy to lift one arm, and that's a classy winning salute, isn't it? As behind him, sprinting for the line, Marco Kump gets the bunch sprint, but it's unfortunately him only for second position. And nothing to touch Kump, who really is a classy sprinter, isn't he? Perhaps a little frustrated that his Adria Mobil squad weren't able to close down Josh Edmondson. They're concerned for most of the day, of course, in protecting the overall race lead. But Josh Edmondson on left-hand side of picture takes the victory on stage 3 of Tour of Azerbaijan. Relief for Edmondson, and great pleasure after what is one that he will celebrate for quite a while, I think. Victory on stage 3, Josh Edmondson.
Tour de Azerbaijan, moving ahead.